It's Monday, February 8th. Hopefully you're not nursing too much of a hangover after last night's Beyoncé concert that she so generously allowed to be bookended by a football game. Speaking of which, the 2015-16 season is in the books, and the Denver Broncos were victorious, defeating the Carolina Panthers 24-10, giving Peyton Manning his magical Ray Lewis moment in the swan song of his career, and sending Cam Newton scurrying away from reporters. We've got a special guest today to help us break down the game, and then we're going to turn our attention back to the Redskins, a topic we haven't really touched on since their elimination in the wild card round of this year's playoffs. So stick around, lots of good insight coming up on the Hog Style.
It's the Hog Style.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, big show, Super Bowl 50 spectacular. We're going to do a little Redskins season retrospective, and we've got a special guest. So, without further ado, my name's Sean Conti, and the crew is here. We've got Mr. Steve Thomas.
I am here again. Pleasure to be around everybody for another week. This is the start of our second off season, so it's kind of big news in Redskin Hogstyle land.
Yeah, that's right. We're pros now. We also have Mr. Robbie Duncan. Hello, Robbie.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Alex Zeese is here.
Oh, the Redskins' real season begins today, boys.
That's right. That's right. Lots to talk about.
Off-season trophy.
Off-season championships.
That's right. So much to talk about, and I am so glad to say we've got Kelly Worrall back with us today, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Good to be back. Good to see you fellas again. And let me just say I'm real proud of what you guys have done with the show over the last season. It's you guys are doing a hell of a job.
Yeah,
Oh, so
Kelly,
you're
we
one of
are
our-
really happy to have you back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the show has been lacking from your absence, and we're glad to have you whenever
That's-
you want.
You know, a lack can be an improvement as well.
Yeah, the great thing is now we know who one of our 30 listeners is. It's Kelly.
There you go.
Well, you're actually right, Kelly, because I kind of said it, poorly, because the show was in fact lacking, but it was in a negative way because what you brought to the show we have been missing. How about that?
I thank you very much, Steve. I still think it's probably addition through subtraction, but I'll take your word for it. You're the expert.
It's the wit. The wit's what we missed.
That's right. We are definitely short on wit, so I'm glad to have Kelly with us. Let's go through this game, because, Kelly, I know you've got good stuff to say about this Super Bowl. Like we said, 24-10, Denver Broncos victorious. I believe I called it for the Panthers. I'm forgetting what you guys called. Did this game end up according to your predictions, Steve?
No, it did not. It's funny because I think what we called was that the Denver defense was going to be a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But all four of us predicted that the Panthers would deal with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it 4 for 4? Wow.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, it was 4 for 4. But what we didn't, but what really happened, what happened in the game was what we thought. The Denver defensive line, which is way too much for the Carolina offensive line. Remmers, the right tackle, got abused like a sick child, all day. Michael Orr wasn't, that much better, and that was the difference in the game. It's why Von Miller was the MVP.
Right.
But all that having been said, Carolina. If I was a Carolina fan, I'd be sick right now. Because they had a lot of plays that they could have made and they didn't. They had a lot of drop balls. They had the Cam Newton decided to, he was too afraid to go jump on a fumble on the 10-yard line. There was a whole, that the missed catch, in the first half that the refs debated and didn't overturn. There were a lot of things that had Carolina done it a little bit differently, they could have still won the game because Denver's offense didn't do much.
Yeah.
Not jumping on that fumble was more like a business decision than it was being afraid.
It's a long-term strategy is what that was.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's the Super Bowl, buddy.
Yeah.
And you just lost a fumble in the red zone.
Yeah.
That was the one time you should have done it.
Yeah, you never know if you're going to be back. I remember Cal Ripken saying something to that effect, how the Orioles went to the World Series very early on in his career, and he's like, oh, we'll be back. It's not a big deal, and they never got back there.
Can't
Dan
bank
Marino.
on that.
Yeah.
Dan Marino.
Take the opportunities that are in front of you.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I wish that I had been on the show prior to, because my girlfriend's the only one that can testify to this. I did call the Broncos. The reason I called the Broncos is because I don't think you bet against Peyton Manning. Going out on his career, it's probably his final game. Maybe he'll pull Brett Favre. We don't know, what he's going to do. But, this was his stage to do something. Now, it turns out Peyton Manning wasn't the difference maker in the game by a long shot, right?
No,
He didn't.
Right.
He's not the guy that won the game. But had it come down to a situation where it was on his shoulders, man, I'd put that on Peyton every single time. This is the shining star moment. Now, the MVP of the game, in my opinion, was Wade Phillips, who called a hell of a defensive game for the Broncos. You could see it in Cam early on and throughout the game. He was throwing that ball a mile past where he needed to throw it, and that's just a kid having nerves. And Peyton's not going to have that. His opening drive was perfect.
The whole team was tight. Well, Carolina came out tight.
Your point about not you're good. Your point about not betting against Peyton Manning the postseason is an excellent point. It's in retrospect what we should have realized about everybody begging to face Green Bay in the elimination round of the playoffs with the Redskins because they were struggling. No. You don't ever beg for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and you don't beg against a dude like Peyton Manning. You know what I mean? It's like
I did.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think we've all made that mistake, but yeah, it's just interesting. I think Kelly's point is actually excellently made. So, Steve, can you hit us with Peyton's stats? You got those on hand?
Yeah. I do have Peyton's stats. They're not good, people. He was 23. He was 13 for 23, 141 yards, 6.1 yards per average, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, which is a pretty bad game all around, but it was good enough.
Yeah,
I think one thing that did actually play into it that, I mean, we kind of overlooked is experience. The Broncos had been there before, save for like the new guys and the rookies on their team, but that team pretty much had been there already, and they knew, what to expect going in, and they didn't have the same jitters and excitement that the Panthers had, and Panthers just couldn't control themselves. It seemed like they just could not get over, they were just overwhelmed. It looked like.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this beforehand. How the Broncos are kind of a team that's completely built of a lot of free agent vets, and in a game like the Super Bowl, that does help because these guys, they've been around the block enough times where they're not going to come out tight, as Steve pointed out with the Panthers. The Panthers are all young. I don't know if anyone on the Panthers team has been in the Super Bowl before, been this deep in the playoffs before. Period.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, but there are guys across the
not
Broncos roster like that.
Also, you got to remember, I think that Cam Newton got the MVP award the night before.
Yeah,
the entire first week of Super Bowl, this two weeks of the Super Bowl was all about Carolina in the media. It was all about Cam Newton. It was a lot of hype for a young team that had never been there before. And the benefit of having a noodle arm Peyton Manning is that he can calm the whole organization down. And John Elway as the GM, those guys know what they're doing.
Right.
Carolina, not so much. They really had a disadvantage. And in retrospect, in hindsight, we should have known that.
Yeah, I think that the veteran leadership point is a fine one. I do think on the Carolina side, I think Michael Orr was part of that Baltimore Super Bowl team.
You're right.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think there was that. But you look at guys, even guys that haven't been to the Super Bowl but have been around that kind of atmosphere. You had DeMarcus Ware on the defensive side for Denver, and then of course Peyton on the offense. So just having those veteran guys that can calm the kids down and say, "Listen, it's a football game. This is what you do. Do what you do. It's just another game." And then the Panthers they were all over the place.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually thought Ware might be a shoo-in for MVP.
Well, yeah, it could have been. I mean, just Carolina came out tight. They looked like it was a bunch of nerves. From play one, and they never really recovered from it. Yeah. But yeah, I think DeMarcus Ware could have been the MVP too. Only one person can get it, but the two of those guys were both.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was one play where DeMarcus Ware was rushing against Michael Orr, and Orr, it looked like a video game glitch playing Madden. Yeah. He literally was sliding back like 7 yards without moving his legs. He was like on ice. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Skating in Madden.
Yeah, skating.
I mean, this was the interesting thing to me about this game. To bring it back to like the from above, the high up perspective. I don't remember a Super Bowl where it was both defenses the whole way through that really just dominated the whole thing. I mean, neither offense did anything all game long to speak of. This was all about defense and special teams, and that's what won the day. Well, penalties too, yeah.
And they did that detract from the game to you guys? I mean, was this a boring game to you, or do you like?
I enjoyed watching it. It's kind of like a pitcher's duel. In baseball, that bores some people, but I find the beauty in it. And a well played defensive game is different than just a poorly executed game.
Yeah.
I actually feel the same way as Steve does, and this is actually what Steve and I are sharing right here. Is not a phenomenon that is common to Americans. Americans are generally not big fans of defense. We like lots of points and lots of highlights. And but whether it's American football, whether it's soccer, whether it's baseball, I enjoy watching a well schemed defense, and that's what both teams really brought to the table. I thought in the game.
I'm with the both of you, and I think anyone who is, and Robbie might disagree totally with us in a second and make us all look like idiots, but anyone who is a hardcore football fan has an appreciation for those old eras of defensive heavy 1980s football, 1970s football, where literally 14 points was considered a normal score for some teams each week.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I enjoyed it. I mean, I love watching good defenses. Like if I'm building a team, believe it or not, other than offensive line, it'd be making sure I have a dominant defense than I do, outstanding wide receivers or a franchise quarterback. I think that Broncos pretty much proved that. I mean, you had them pretty much carry the game the whole way. I mean, they scored pretty much the only touchdown at the very beginning, and then the Broncos got that one at the end, obviously,
right.
But I mean, they put the team in the best case to win, just like the Ravens did back in the day.
How long of a drive was that?
How long of a drive? It wasn't that far. I don't remember how
wasn't it
far.
But 10 yards?
Yeah, it was like 10 yards.
Yeah, so again, defense gets both touchdowns in my book.
Pretty much.
Well, I believe that this was only the 8th time that a defensive player has been named MVP of the Super Bowl. I believe that's the case. I know it seems shocking, but it's really a huge discrepancy. I might not be exactly correct.
But I mean, it's in the ballpark for sure. And the other thing that occurred to me, I meant to look this up and I just forgot to do it before the show. I can't think of another quarterback who started for 2 Super Bowl winning teams.
It's never happened.
Peyton.
Yeah, Peyton did it the first. This was the first quarterback to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yep. He it's like the whole Joe Gibbs. He's the only coach to ever win with more than one quarterback. Peyton gets this kind of official stat on his history.
Well, in my next lifetime, I'm going to root for the team that has Joe Gibbs coaching Peyton Manning. That'll solve all the problems.
I got the sense at the end of the game there. So obviously the storyline, or a major storyline, is that Peyton Manning won't be coming back. Potentially, this is his last time playing. And I got the sense when Roger Goodell was doing that thing at the end of the game where he was saying, "Peyton, I don't know if this is your last rodeo, but it's been a hell of a ride." I got the sense that Peyton was just like, "Oh God, shut up, dude. Just leave it alone, man."
I got a sense that when Peyton Manning called out Budweiser twice on national television, that was a signal it was over for him.
Yeah,
he got a little scratch from that, didn't he? And you get those 2 national TV promo spots. But I'll tell you, the one thing that struck me about Peyton Manning was how prepared he seemed to be for that moment when the reporters are crowding. I mean, you saw the throng of people around him, right? Nobody cared about Von Miller. Nobody cared about anybody else. There was a massive crowd of reporters around Peyton Manning. He couldn't move. And he just took it all in stride like he was on his way to the post office. It didn't bother him in the least.
I mean, it's the 4th Super Bowl he's been at. He's 39 years old. He should be good at it.
Sure, but you see other guys that get into that position, and they're they can be emotional train wrecks at the end of their.
For example, Cam Newton.
Cam Newton.
Yeah, we might want to talk about that train wreck real quick.
Oh
yeah. Well, yeah. So I was just going to say, Peyton Manning, I think, has always been extraordinarily good with the media. But yeah, let's
he's had a few flubs here and there in his career.
And he kissed Papa John. Did you notice that too?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
They got.
I didn't.
It was like an Italian
Papa John.
Italian kiss on the cheek. Type thing.
I'd like to invite Sean because I know Sean hates. I know Sean hates Cam Newton. So I'd like to invite Sean.
No. I don't hate Cam Newton at all. In fact,
to describe your thoughts.
Yeah, so let me just say this. I don't hate Cam Newton at all. In fact, I was kind of rooting for the Panthers in this because I have the college connection to the Carolinas, but this was kind of a win-win situation for me. I was happy with either one of these teams winning. I do see the sentimental value of Peyton winning, so I'm very happy for him. I don't hate Cam Newton. I hate his pants. I hate his dabbing. And I hate the tearing down of the fan signs. And then this was just like, another, come on, dude. Don't run away from the reporters. This is a shared responsibility that all athletes have. Just sit there and talk to the reporters. Don't make yourself look like an ass. I don't know if maybe that was a result of people seeing that he didn't dive for that loose ball, and maybe that he was afraid that kind of thing was going to get brought up. But either way, you got to deal with it, dude. You've got to deal with it.
He definitely should have dealt with it better. But at the same time, they also had Chris Harris down the maybe 20 feet away from him, yelling at the top of his mouth how great their defense was, what their game plan was, just gloating about their win. And you could see Cam looking over there and just, feeling spiteful and just fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, from what I understand as well, what Harris was talking about in terms of game plan was we were going to make Cam Newton throw the ball because we don't think he can throw. And it worked and all this, and so Cam's got to sit there and sit, and he's a kid. He's never been on this stage before. This is his first time. He really wanted to win. He wanted to have his big moment, and he's disappointed and dejected, and people are just asking him questions. How's it feel to lose? How'd they beat you? What'd you do wrong? Where'd it go sideways for you? And he's just like, I can't take it. He shouldn't have stayed, but
it was a feeding frenzy. It was going to be. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's not a kid. I mean, he's 26, but I mean, I get your point. He's certainly a young guy. Yeah, well, he's not the Robbie. Yeah. You should be out there, right? No, but look, I mean, he's an emotional player for good, for better and for worse. I didn't fault him necessarily for that interview too much. It was, it was a rough situation for him. The answer he gave was actually a pretty good answer. And he just basically said, we as a team, didn't do well. You didn't pass, well, didn't catch too many turnover. I mean, he said the right things. I really do think, like Robbie said, it was the fact that he could hear Chris Harris talking through a black curtain and screaming about it. I think that's what set him off. I in the grand scheme of things, I think it was a minor thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so we got to talk about the Redskins too, but I want to ask you guys this before we switch topics here about, closing thoughts on the Super Bowl. I think we should talk a little bit about that loose ball and his, decision or not decision to go after it. But I guess we talked about Peyton Manning first, and we talked about how the win maybe not really totally, it wasn't really his effort that got them to win. So flip that over. Panthers-wise, how much of this loss is on Cam Newton?
Very little. Very little. Cam Newton was basically the only guy that did anything on that offense. Nobody could run the ball. Nobody could catch the ball.
Nobody could block.
Cam couldn't throw the ball either, but at least he could run it a little bit. I mean, that's the only thing that I saw that they did was occasionally get Cam outside running the football.
Mike Tolbert fumbled the ball twice. He had two big runs and just it popped out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cam got hit 13 times in that game. Right. On 13 he had 41 dropbacks. He was 18 to 41, 265 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. Got hit 13 times, which is over twice as much as he's been hit in any game all season. Mm-hmm. The blocking was atrocious. I think the Denver defense just overwhelmed that Carolina offense, mainly.
Yeah. Came down to Wade Phillips. And these hits, when you get running quarterbacks, you often get these guys. You remember Mike Vick would rack up massive numbers of times getting hit because he's running around like a chicken back there trying to make something happen. That was not the case with Cam Newton. He was dropping back and getting pounded quickly by people blitzing. It wasn't a case of him doing the wrong thing.
It was him in the pocket most of the time.
Yeah, it was in the pocket.
And there was one sack that Michael Orr gave up that wasn't even his fault. I mean, Whitaker, the running back, bumped him right from behind. I don't know what he was doing, but he just hit Michael Orr from behind and didn't even try to chip DeMarcus Ware. It was just an easy sack. Yeah.
Hey, Robbie, did you ever get schooled like Michael Orr did on that play where he was on skates where he just got pushed back for 7 yards? Is there a Duncan film out there where Duncan's getting thrown like a rag doll like that?
I got film of all my games, but I'd be lying if I said I never had a play like that. It
happens. I'm sure.
I can go back and show you my game against New Hampshire my senior year. I got my ass kicked a lot in that game.
They call it getting Duncaned now.
I just
Robbie,
couldn't believe that his feet never moved. That was what was most amazing about that play. He truly looked like he was on roller skates.
Yeah.
when Robbie played, he actually wore roller skates. It's an advanced training.
That's because he was that confident. He didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wore him on his hands.
We're making fun of Robbie as if any of us could do what he did.
Oh,
I can
God.
take it.
Listen, I'm on the other side of the country. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, you get decidedly more confident the further away from Robbie you get.
It's very true.
Right.
Yeah,
Suck,
when Robbie moved out of Northern Virginia, Sean and I just got cockier. That's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We're
Yeah,
too
I'm
big
in
for our
the-
britches.
I'm in the Hampton Roads area now. Woo!
Ugh. I don't-
Anyway, the conclusion I wanted to make, and I've been hounding Steve about this on Twitter a couple times now.
Oh, yeah.
This game proves that you can never have too many good pass rushers all
That's not
around the
what he
board.
said, but go ahead.
Well, I said,
Damn.
John Keim even touched on it. I completely agreed with it. You can never have too many pass rushers, and that defense will win championships. And I should have gone with a better defense originally when we predicted this game, but Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Wolf, Malik Jackson, all these guys on their defense that just are so good at getting to the quarterback. It pays dividends. It makes the world a difference. And you really can't have too many good pass rushers, which is what the Redskins should be looking to do. I guarantee you Scott McCloughan's got his eye on that.
Yeah.
Let me clarify. We can have too many outside linebackers. That's the point. I've never disputed that we need more defensive linemen. I hope we do draft some defensive linemen. What has irritated me and the point Robbie's making is that I just, I grimace every time I hear, let's draft another outside linebacker. I think we have enough of them. We've got Junior Gillette, assuming Junior Gillette comes back. If Junior Gillette doesn't come back, all bets are off maybe. But if we have Gillette come back, we've got, a whole row of linebackers. But what we need are some interior defensive linemen, because look at the pressure that they got. Wasn't just Ware on Cam, wasn't just Ware and Miller. It was Wolf straight up the middle.
Yeah.
That's what we need. What I'm hoping is we don't just draft yet another.
More than pot roast.
I hope we just don't draft another outside linebacker just because he's there. That's gonna make my head explode.
No,
you can't want more than pot roast in terms of sheer mass. You don't want more mass than pot roast, but I think you might want a little bit more productivity.
Well,
My thing on pot roast-
is a two-gap guy, right?
Yeah, he is.
Right. No, I understand. He does what he does.
Yeah.
I think Pot Roast played his way into shape as the season went on.
Yeah.
He got better as the
he
season
did.
was ending. He was doing a lot more by that point. I think
Became more of a strip steak.
Yeah, I think he definitely came into the season out of shape and wasn't quite ready. And then by
That's
the
the
end
Kelly
of the
we
season,
love.
he was full go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Robbie.
Well, no. So
You're fine.
this
You
is
made a
this
very
is-
good
Flank
point.
steak at the end.
Yeah. No, this is actually great. And in fact, Kelly, I love that comment because people have been listening to us all year long talk about the Redskins. So why don't you breathe some fresh air into the Hogsty as you are so good at doing and give us your kind of top level opinion about how the season went down. And you've already done it a little bit, but maybe put that in the context of where we should go.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, listen, I don't think that there's a fan out there, who's like a right-minded, reasonably minded fan who was not
there's none
pleasantly
of 'em.
surprised by the outcome of this season. Going 9-6, taking the division, getting to the playoffs, having a not a great but a not horribly embarrassing showing against the Green Bay Packers. We had a quarterback who played the whole season. We had, we had a couple of pleasant surprises and guys like Jameson Crowder, Jordan Reed coming back healthy and showing the kind of a difference maker he can be. Finding a new running back and Matt Jones, may he hold on to the football and be productive. Now this to be said, we're not the Carolina Panthers. We have a long way to go still, and I know all of you have very good thoughts, and you've been sharing them all season. And I expect we're going to hear a lot more from in the off season about the directions that we need to go in order to become an even stronger team, an even better team. But the 2015 season is probably, to me, it's a more satisfying season than the 2012 season because it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a miracle 7-game run out of nowhere on the heels of one guy. It was a solid season We saw improved offensive line play. We saw an improved defense. We saw a whole bunch of new coaches playing together for the first time, and a lot of new players playing together for the first time. And I think that if we continue to build through the draft and make intelligent decisions, this team can get better and better. And I haven't felt that way about this franchise in quite some time.
Yeah, sure. So a major debate that we have been having, and you've probably been driven insane by listening to us do it every single week, but we have recently been talking about a lot about Kirk Cousins' contract situation and how that's going to potentially handicap the team or not. So what do you think about Kirk, and what do you think about a proper amount to pay him is going to be going into this season?
I'm not a numbers guy. I've always, whenever I need to know anything about numbers, I ask Steve. So the proper amount to pay him, I leave up to the brains of the organization. Kirk Cousins, however, he's a solid football player, and what he has shown is that he has the ability to correct mistakes. He has the ability to put together a foundation of skills, learn and grow. And I don't think that you can ask for more from that when you talk about the term franchise quarterback. You're talking about a guy that you can build your team around. And if that is a guy who has a reasonably good skill set and a solid foundation and has shown that he has the ability to improve with coaching, I think that that's the guy you got to start with.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying there. I think the issue for me, and if I were the Redskins side of it, what I would say is that we haven't really seen enough of this development of Kirk to really provide to really go all chips all in on him yet. The real problem is that the real problem is that most of these rookie quarterbacks have a whole lot more playing time than our guy does, because our guy didn't play. We have the drama with Robert Griffin and all that stuff. We've really got, one season plus a few games. And in that one season, he really didn't come alive until about the last 6 games. He was mediocre to bad at the beginning. He got better all season. But it was really when he started lighting it up was at the end. And, no quarterback, not Tom Brady, not Johnny Unitas, not anybody can keep up the pace that he set at the end of the year. And so he's going to regress. It just statistically, he will regress. It's inevitable.
How much? And
it's okay. The question is exactly right. How much? And the bigger question is, how much can the Redskins trust him? I'm not going to go into all the details of the contract numbers and stuff here, but the contract has got to be one that reflects that there is more of a risk with Kirk Cousins than other quarterbacks for these reasons.
Well, now that's the question that I want to turn that back around to you, though, is he's more of a risk than what other quarterbacks, right? Because you talk about, quarterbacks, there is no guy in the NFL that you can bring in and say, you know what, this is a $100 million guy, can't go wrong. There's no fail here. This is definitely the guy for us. He's going to fit in our scheme. He's going to, get along well with our players. They're going to respect him, look to him for leadership. Kirk has a number of those attributes already in hand. Do you, instead of saying, you know what, we've got maybe 50, maybe 60% of what we want in a guy, let's build on that? Or do you say, we don't know enough, let's look a new direction again?
Well, what I meant is that most of the time when you have quarterbacks that get a second contract with their team, there is a larger body of work that the team can use to evaluate, i.e. Andy Dalton. The 2 contracts that are most like the ones I put in that article, Andy Dalton and Ryan Tannehill. And both those guys have a whole lot more games under their belt, and the team has had a chance to see him in the spotlight, those 2 players in the spotlight, much longer. We don't have that with Kirk. We like what happened with Kirk, but he does have some weaknesses. Let's not pretend, the team Kirk members out there don't shoot me, but he has some weaknesses,
No, they're there.
Yeah, they are. They're there. And it is more of a gamble with him because there has been it's a smaller sample size to evaluate. We don't know if he's going to go back to when we face a much harder schedule next year, what's going to happen. We haven't seen that of him. So the contract needs to reflect that.
Yeah, and you talk about regression and how much he will. I think the thing you need to really invest in to help prevent any kind of major regression is the running game.
Yes.
The thing that did impress me about how Kirk played was he carried the offense in spite of a lack of a running game. We could not run the ball. And that was one of the things that, was a negative for me was, teams were stopping the run because they were basically daring Kirk to beat them with his arm. And then he did that this season. He at the beginning, it wasn't as flashy or as efficient, but as the season went on, he got better at that, and he basically carried them to the NFC East Championship. I mean, along with the other team as they were playing too. But that was the big improvement I saw, that he actually was able to carry the offense despite not being able to run the ball as well as we should have.
So my question, and this is probably to Steve, although I don't think we've heard from Alex or Sean on this yet either. But if not Kirk, then who? Are you talking about drafting someone? Are you talking about bringing somebody new in? Are you talking about Colt? You're not talking about Robert.
No,
right.
No.
Well, I never said it wasn't Kirk. I think, listen, I mean, I think Sean and I have been the biggest RG3 fans here, right? And I still like RG3, and I still think he got kind of a raw deal from the team, but it's over, okay? It's over. It's, for the RG3, Team Griffin members, it is over, period. He's going to move on. The team is going to get rid of him, and they should get rid of him. I personally think he's going to go and sell somewhere, but the team needs to move on. And I think the team at this point needs to bring back Kirk Cousins, for better or for worse or for indifferent. They need to go with Kirk. But, if he leaves, I've always said, contract-wise, if some team offers him some ridiculously big contract, you got to let him walk. You cannot give him a top 5 quarterback contract. That's insane. And if anybody wants to do that, have at it. And then maybe we draft somebody, I don't know what. So,
right.
All my point is that we can't be locked into Kirk for 5 years. A year or two tops, we got to be able to get out of him.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much just going to piggyback off of what you said and say I don't think that Colt McCoy is better than Kirk Cousins at all. I think Kirk Cousins is definitely the better quarterback. The question in my mind is he $20 million better? Because that is what probably the difference in what you're going to have to pay the two guys. I mean, Colt you can get for dirt cheap as opposed to Kirk, which we potentially might have to pay out the ass for. So I'm kind of with Steve in that I know that that's the going rate of quarterbacks and that's what people pay starters. But at the same time, we've got a great GM who can do amazing things, and don't you want to keep as much money in his pockets, able to, wheel and deal as we can? Probably. I'm with Steve in that you try to sign the team-friendliest deal that you can get, and if you can't get a team-friendly deal, then you got to let him go. And I'm against the franchise.
Quarterback.
Well, you got Colt. You got Colt for probably like $150.
We don't want to go back there.
Well, no, I hear what you're saying, but again, it's a money thing. Right. I'm not a numbers guy either, so I'm not the best at it. But just the thought of paying Kirk, especially a franchise, like a 1-year deal worth 25, it just makes me like cringe.
Well,
it makes me sad.
It wouldn't be that big.
No.
It wouldn't be 25. It'd be a little over 20. But it's still way too much. It's still a whole lot of money, and he's just not worth. I think what I showed in that article, if anybody got through the whole thing, because it is packed with numbers, is that he is not. He's not an elite quarterback. The stats do not pan that out, and he's not at that level. Mm-hmm. He's at about the same level of development stats wise as that that group of young quarterbacks I identified, Dalton, Tannehill, those guys. Well, that's kind of where he is. And if anybody thinks otherwise, you could take him. By all means, you can have him.
Yeah. Well, so I have a question for Kelly. How much stock do you put in? This was a big, there's a big to-do made about the Redskins' schedule this year and the fact that we didn't play any teams with winning records, so we probably suck. How much stock do you put in the slate of games, or do you just say you gotta beat who's in front of you? I mean, do you think that we were aided by who we faced, or are we really a 9-7 team?
It certainly didn't help that we're in a very shitty division right now, or didn't hurt rather. I mean that goes a long way, but we had to, we had to play the Panthers. We had to play the Patriots. We had to play some hard teams. Now they slaughtered us, which helps us understand where we are as a franchise. But I'm going to give a pretty pretty NFL answer to this. You play the teams that they tell you to play, and your job's to go out there every week and to do your best and to win football games. You can't at the end of the season, say, well, they're not so good because they didn't play anybody that was good, or they're better because they played harder teams, or different teams prepare every week. They show up every Sunday, and your job is to go out there and do what you can against what you're faced. So they're a 9-7 team, no matter how you count them.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't see how people could say, well, they're not really 9-17. Your record is your record.
Yeah, you literally are.
Yeah,
literally
we
9-17.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on about the quarterback situation, I think all Redskins fans should expect that Scott's going to draft a quarterback regardless of what happens with
think so.
with Kirk as well. I mean, I doubt to be first round or even second round, but we're getting a quarterback in the draft. There's a guy in there that we're going to need to develop and have ready to play. Assuming the worst happens. Besides, we only got 2 quarterbacks on the roster at this point, assuming that we do actually cut Robert, which we probably will. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the rumor is right now that Skins are still trying to find a trade partner for Robert. I saw that out there,
that's
which
not
is
going to
absurd.
happen.
I know.
Good luck, guys.
They're doing due diligence, and that's what you want, right?
They're trying to prevent him from choosing where he wants to go. Like, they don't want him to go to a division team.
And I'm with you, Robbie. I think we are going to draft somebody, and you guys are talking about price. To me, it's not about the price tag. It's about, and Steve, you made this point pretty clear. It's about when can you get out of the contract if things go south with Kirk, and that's what my bigger concern would be. Is there an out in 2 years in that deal that doesn't hurt the team too badly? I don't care about what he's getting paid because any good GM knows how to work around a salary issue. That's what they're paid for. That's the one thing we have Bruce Allen here for, is he's good at that. So I'm not too worried about the price. I'm worried about in 2 years, if let's say Kirk turns out it was all fool's gold, can we move on? Can we go to that quarterback we draft in the 6th round or 7th round or whoever, see what he's got maybe for a year?
Cardale Jones.
Yeah, well, I'm still on the
kidding.
Kevin Hogan bandwagon.
Hackenberg.
Oh
my
yeah,
God.
Hackenberg.
3 different Hogstye picks. This is going to confuse the viewers, guys.
Yeah, not the guy from TCU. That's all I know. He'll probably be in jail.
Here's what I think about just the Kirk contract thing. Just 2 real quick points before we move on. One is I think that Kirk is a good guy. You have different kinds of players in the NFL. You've got your Haynesworth guys, and your TO guys, and then you have some guys like Kirk. There have been guys like this throughout the league, and it happens in every sport. And there's no way to tell. Some people just want to play the game. They want to do well. They're not. Kirk strikes me as the last guy in the world who is out to make a massive paycheck so that he can roll in some fat wheels and cover himself in jewels. He's not that guy. He's he wants to make money, absolutely. But I don't think that he's the kind of guy that is going to hold the team, hostage over a massive contract so that he can get every penny out of it. Second thing, when you talk about $20 million for a quarterback, that is, in my opinion, the one position on the team that has the most impact on the team that you cannot easily replace with somebody who's coming up through the ranks, somebody who might have been a free agent that just wasn't a good fit on that team. You can find him, you can pick up a Pierre Thomas to fill a gap if a guy goes down. You can pick up a safety if a guy goes down. The quarterback isn't that position. If you do say this is too much to pay for Kirk Cousins because he's not a fully known commodity, and I totally get that. But if you make that decision, you are also committing to starting over with God knows what. And I think that's the last thing that we need to go through again as fans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I liked everything there that Kelly said, but unfortunately, it's all wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh!
Okay, a couple things.
Kelly,
number one,
stupid son of a bitch,
Dumb bastard,
idiot.
Number one, it's it's very sunshine and rosy-ish, and positive and upbeat to suggest that Kirk Cousins, isn't money hungry, doesn't want to wear a bunch of chains and buy a Bentley, all that stuff. But you're forgetting the most important factor, which is he has an agent, and the agent's job is to go out and hold the Redskins hostage, and he will do that. And his particular agent is an aggressive negotiator, and that's far more important than what kind of good dude Kirk Cousins is, because he can and he should get all the money he possibly can, and I don't fault him for that at all. Number one. Number two, it's not going to cost $20 million a year to keep him.
No.
It's not. It'll be in the. I know, but I mean, everybody throws out 20 million on a regular basis. It's not going to, even in the worst situation, it would cost, mid to high teens, and that's it. So it's not going to be quite as bad.
We're talking about the franchise is the 20. That's where the 20 comes from, is the franchise tag, the exclusive.
Yeah, but we're not going to. Yeah, that's the exclusive tag is more than that. But a long term deal is not going to cost 20 million a year.
Well,
and then the last thing I want to say real quick about Griffin. Yeah, real quick about Griffin, just because I know we get comments on Twitter and stuff about this. The reason why he can't be, I know you guys all know this, but the reason why he can't be traded is that he has a 1-year deal worth $16.5 million. That is the leftover option from his rookie contract. The only way that's going to get traded is if he wanted to redo that deal to make it somewhat more team friendly. He has zero incentive to do that whatsoever. Right. And it's not going to happen. So anybody who thinks that the team's going to get value out of him, it will not happen. So
no, he's
that's
walking.
Just as simple
we're
as
not
that.
Right. Steve, you are forgetting the one other way we could trade him, and that is Vinny Serrato somehow becomes a GM again.
Well,
somewhere else.
He'd find a way.
Somebody hires Vinny and says, "I'm throwing the bank in for this guy."
Right.
Now he is beyond at this point. If he walks as a free agent, we don't get any kind of compensation picks for that, do we?
No.
Well, that's not quite true.
We would actually be cutting him, so no.
Yeah, the formula that the NFL uses for the compensatory draft picks has never been disclosed publicly, and so the players that you lose that walk, after a contract expires, factors into it. But if you cut a guy, in the case of Griffin, I don't think it goes into that compensatory draft pick stuff. Oh, and by the way, Alex, you asked me last episode, one more thing, I think we probably need to move on, right, Sean? But you guys asked me real quick, what happens if Jason Hatcher retires?
Right.
Into his contract
what the cap impact would be.
Yeah. Well, what happens? It's basically the exact same thing as if you cut a guy. What happens if a guy leaves early is that the bonus money cap hit is accelerated to the current year, and that's the same whether it's for retirement or whether somebody gets cut. And in the case of Hatcher, his dead money is less than his cap hit, and we could let him go. He could retire and it'd be fine. So, right. But that's what it's basically treated like same thing as if you cut.
Okay, I thought that was the case. I didn't know if you got some kind of deal, like maybe you only took half the hit or something. But
they can go recover money if you retire in the middle of a contract. But not every team does that because it's kind of bad business practice.
Yeah, dick move.
Yeah.
Well, so actually, why don't we put our predictions out there? What do you think is going to happen with Robert if he goes? Where's he going to go? Who's going to take him?
Dallas.
Yeah,
seems to be what everyone's saying. God, that's going to be crazy if that happens. I mean,
he's
world
a
is
big
going to
baby.
explode.
He needs to go back to his home where people like him, and he's loved by everybody. That's what fuels him, and he doesn't know how to handle anything else.
I gotta tell you guys, you would not believe what I saw driving home from work today. I was coming home thinking about the show.
A lizard.
And I'm driving
in the wild.
Well, it's close. I'm driving down the freeway, and in my city, it's a big 5-6 lane freeway. And what drives up beside me but a long 20-year-old limousine, and the license plate on the limo said BU RG3.
Oh wow!
Uh-oh.
I don't know what that meant. It was a white guy driving it, so RG3 might have been a passenger. He wasn't.
Yeah, a white guy driving a limo is not unusual. I mean, that's
no. But my point is,
white guy driving a limo.
No, my point is, Griffin was not driving the limo. He could have been maybe riding in it, but the license plate.
Griffin be driving the limo?
He may need a second career, as bad as football's
spare change.
But the license plate, honest to God, and this was not a nice limo. This is one that's like 20 years old Cadillac from the late 80s, early 90s, and the license plate, honest to God, said BU RG3 on it.
From all my limo riding experience, I'll tell you, I like the old limos. Give me that 1980s style.
Well, hell yeah.
Clearly, RG3 does too.
With the boomerang on the back.
A picture of it.
Well, so
if
Steve,
I got a picture of it, I would have. Yeah.
So it's Baylor University RG3 most likely, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, they build statues. They build statues for that dude in Texas. Of course, they got limos cruising down the streets.
Yeah.
Ancient limos.
What color limo, Steve?
I'm nowhere near Waco, though. Is the thing.
I think he's going to Houston.
Was the driver of the car behind the limo?
What's that?
I was saying I'm trying to bring it back. I said I think he's going to Houston.
Houston. Oh, way to remember we're doing a show, Robbie.
Yeah. Brought the whole vibe down, dude.
I'm gonna. I want to be different and say he'll go to Cleveland because Hugh Jackson apparently likes him or something. I remember hearing a rumor of that at one time.
Yeah. Well, I would like to think that maybe Cleveland is finally ready to focus and stop making horrible picks and acquisitions and finally settle things down there, but probably not because it's
I'm
Cleveland.
going to give you the final true answer, which is San Francisco.
See, that's the thing, though. He doesn't want to run that offense.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd want to go there, but I mean,
I don't think he cares anymore.
It'd be
what
good
offense
for him
he's
to
gonna
do
run.
that.
I don't think that there's been any evidence to say that he only runs certain kinds of offenses and won't run other kinds of offenses.
Yeah, where's that come from?
Riley Cooper.
he doesn't want to run read option anymore.
I wish we could have known exactly what happened because I still think we're
I
getting kind
believe
of one
that.
side of that story.
I may be wrong, but I believe that.
Let's not even go back into that horrible
let's
rotten
not.
can of worms.
Let's move us on,
Sorry.
Sean.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, he's a great quarterback. I'm glad we have him. Skins are moving forward. On to 2016, boys.
There you go. So before we close out, Robbie brought up a great point earlier, which we kind of forgot to address, which was an excellent point about this past season, which was the total lack of running game completely. I think we all could probably agree that completely held down our offense from the start. We had 2 good games at the beginning of the season, and then it was crap from there on out. So I wanted to ask you, Kelly, what are you
Wasn't my fault.
Yeah. I'm not convinced.
You might have done better as a running back than either Morris or Jones. The rate they ran.
Possibly.
Right.
I've got some moves, son.
So where do you place the blame there? Is it an offensive line thing? Is it Jay Gruden's play calling? Is it Alfred Morris' general physical decline? What do you think's going on there?
I don't think there's necessarily a point of blame to be found for the fact that our running game wasn't what it had been in years past. There are obviously some contributing factors. We had a pretty good shuffle in the offensive line. We had a new offensive line coach come in who's got a new mentality and a new scheme. He's calling the running plays. Didn't call them the years prior. Alfred is Alfred. He's a good running back, but he was a good running back in one kind of system, not necessarily as effective a running back in under Callahan. But the other thing, there were quite a number of games there in that sort of 4 to 7 stretch of weeks where we were behind by a good bit, and we needed to throw the football. We needed to throw it a whole lot. And by God, at the end of every game, it felt like every single week we were right there at the end of the game with a last-minute comeback drive. Kirk Cousins still slinging the ball to this guy, that guy, finding ways to score points and stay in it, push it to overtime with Atlanta. Win a couple, the Tampa Bay game. These all happened in the middle of the season. And that established for the Washington Redskins their identity as a team and their character and what worked for them. And once you found what's working, there's really not a lot of reason to go away from it until somebody stops you. And after they turned that corner, I felt like the passing game, this sort of became a pass-first offense, and it was a damn effective one. We ended up 9-7. Nobody thought we were. We were sub 500 for quite a while. Why would you turn around and say, you know what, we need to run the ball more?
Yeah, well, that's a fair point.
And I'll tell you why I think you need to at least work on it, and that is because 16 games a year, that's not going to happen. You need to have that plan B, and you need to give Kirk a week off, more or less, if you want to look at it that way. So that's why we need to find some kind of run game for those games where we're going to go up against teams with better secondaries next year. That's a gimme. And so we need to be able to balance the scales a little bit.
Can I simplify this for you guys? Is that okay? You're having this long, in-depth conversation about it. I'm going to make it really simple. Okay?
I thought I made it pretty simple.
Jones sucks. Alfred's washed up. They need to move on. It's that simple.
Holy shit.
You're going to put the blame square on the running backs.
Well, no, I mean, Robbie proved to me over the course of the season that part of it was O-line. Part of it was that the backs weren't seeing the hole. Part of it was that they weren't running hard enough. But my point is that I don't think Matt Jones showed me Jones did not prove to me that he's capable of being a franchise back that can carry the team. I don't care about the fumbles. A lot of backs have fumbling problems early in their career and they can get over it. I just don't think he has the vision. I've been talking all year about how you have to have vision as a running back. I don't think he has it on a consistent basis. And I think Alfred Morris physically showed that he's just done. Maybe that's not. He's declining physically, and he's not a fit for a power scheme. And we run some power plays, so they need to draft a running back. Ezekiel Elliott, maybe Henry, somebody else. They need to move on. I'm not saying cut Matt Jones or anything, but they need to bring some premium talent in. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, and are you saying, Steve, that I believe you're saying too that it's time to move on from Alfred Morris?
Yeah, I love Alf. We love him, but I just don't think he's a fit for our system, and he's declining physical. All those carries he got, he's not the same.
Sure. Well, it's a sad moment that we find ourselves at. I guess it's sad depending on how you look at it. It could also be incredibly hopeful. But if you think back to 2012, Robert Griffin, Pierre Garçon, and Alfred Morris were kind of like the trio, the three amigos of 2012. And we are now going into a situation where all three of them could be gone potentially this offseason. I mean, it could happen. All three of those guys are talked about. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion for RG3. The other two, I think, are definite possibilities. So thinking about that, Kelly, does that make you sad? Is that an emotional moment for you? Are you ready to go?
It doesn't make me sad. The thing that makes me sad, when we talk about this, is that Alfred Morris is a guy who deserved it. Alfred Morris, class act all the way, played the game the right way, said the right things, never was mean to anybody, was never selfish. When they asked him to take a back seat to Matt Jones, he did it. You never heard a word of bitching and moaning about it. He waited his turn again, even though he'd already proved himself. Mike Shanahan has made a career out of chewing through running backs in 2 years, and then moving on to the next guy. Pierre Garçon, very good wide receiver, probably overpaid. RG3 has been discussed enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Let me just say this. I think Steve's a little premature in his feelings on Matt Jones. When you look at Matt Jones' numbers in total and factor in the fact that they basically held him out the last few weeks, and they did that, because he was injured. Partly gassed, he wasn't being effective, but that happens.
He had an injury,
and he was injured.
Well, he had an injury. Yeah. That was why he was out.
But with rookie running backs, they're not used to that 16-game schedule to begin with. So you see that quite a bit with young players. He had 1,000 yards net. And for any running back, that's a pretty good season. You take his 700 yards in the running game, 300 yards in the passing game. That's solid. So, maybe he's not going to be a, 100-yard-a-game guy ever for us, but we're going to a two-back system, it looks like, so he'll be that second back.
Sure.
Look, I don't mean to be too down on Matt Jones.
Yes, you do.
Number one, his yards per carry was 3. He had 3.84 yards per carry on the season, which stinks.
Yeah.
Number two, there are lots of rookie running backs that do well for an entire season. Do well. For example, Todd Gurley, performed very well. Yeah. Get little juvenile there, Robbie. Right? We're a serious only show here, okay?
Hey, Alex said you were premature.
My point is
nothing premature about you. I'm looking at you. That's full on.
You're just not gonna let me make my point, are you? Forget it. No. All my point is that I don't think Matt Jones showed very much this year. Statistically, he didn't. He had his moments. And here and there, he looked good, but I definitely think we need a new number one running back.
Yeah, he definitely showed he's not ready. He showed a little bit of a knuckleheadness to him. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't in right positions. Kirk had to move him around a lot in the backfield to be on the right side. It's just minor stuff like that he still hasn't picked up. I'm hoping that an off season working with Kirk and the offensive line, everybody just getting an off season under his belt, kind of watching and studying the film. I think he'd be a little bit better. Not a number one, but I think he's definitely a piece in the, a cog in the operation. He's going to
Yes.
be part of the entire process.
Yeah.
You can't
he's gonna be a
deny
big
his
part of it.
ability in the passing game when he can get out on the edge on those screens.
Mm.
That is he has value there at least.
And he's got some quickness and he's got some power. And let's not forget, he is a rookie. They're going to line up in the wrong spot. They're going to miss some assignments. These are the kinds of things that rookies do. That's why we haze them and make them feel terrible about themselves and their lives.
Right.
In the beginning of the season,
Kelly, by the way, we're
we all
gonna be
watched
duct
game
taping you
2.
again.
We watched week 2 when I think it was week 2 or week 3 when Matt Jones got the rock and took over and was pounding the ball and knocking some people back and making guys miss. What I can't remember is at what point in the season, and did it coincide with the decline of the running game, did Corey Lichtensteiger get hurt?
It was close.
It was early.
Yeah, it was early.
We
and the
had
running
some
game
shuffling
figured out.
around. We brought in Larib. We moved
refuse
some guys
to
around,
believe.
and maybe coincidentally, the running game vanished.
I refuse to believe that one mediocre center made that big of a difference in the run game. And again, looking at the cut-ups, it was abundantly obvious that sometimes it was the offensive line's, fault with their blocking scheme. Sometimes running backs missed the hole,
Sure.
missed the read, missed the hole. And my problem with Jones isn't, that, he has some rookie mistakes here and there. That's fine. I understand that. The fumbling is one of them. I just don't think he's a consistent enough running back. And I don't think he's going to become that. I think he keep him around, number 2 level running back. I think that's what you have.
I hear you, Steve. But at the same time, you're judging him based on one body of work when we did not have a consistent running back. There was nobody could run the football this season.
Alf was better.
Alf was better
by
for
like
a little
half a
bit,
yard.
but I felt like we didn't have a consistent running game the whole year.
Certainly we didn't.
And you'll notice too, the playoff game. Playoffs are on the line. We've had Larib at center for 10, 12 weeks at this point. We come in, we're going to face Green Bay. We managed to get, and they put in Corey Lichtensteiger, the guy who had not got us to the playoffs, the guy who had not been gelling with the team the whole year. They still decided, despite the fact the guy's a little older, he's coming off an injury, he hasn't been playing with the guys. They still decided that's the guy we want to put in at center, even though the other guy's been winning games for us all the time, which tells you there's something different about Lichtensteiger and Larib that even with Larib winning games, they'd rather have Lichty in there. And I don't know, maybe it's maybe he's seeing defenses and calling schemes better. I'm not sure what it was, but I think that there's something to that angle that may have some explanation of what happened with the running game.
Sure. Well, all of these answers hopefully will be solved in the offseason here. We shall see. Great place to end. I wanted to throw out a quick fact for you guys before we close out. Tyler Columbus now has a Super Bowl ring. React.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
God damn it!
He tweeted out a picture of himself
Celebrating.
shirtless with the trophy in his hand.
Yeah, because he
Christ
So
In his hand.
Yeah.
the trophy in his hand.
Are you
Yes.
about to break out into some sort of hymn?
Yeah. It's a mad world, guys. I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm having trouble reconciling
Way to
that
end
with
on it.
reality.
Way
Yeah.
to end on it. Yeah, good job.
I know, it's a disorienting fact.
Tyler,
But anyways,
I have no
Columbus,
rebuttal.
Super Bowl champion.
I finally come back to the show. What do I get? Typo won a Super Bowl. Thanks.
that's right. That's
At
right.
least it wasn't Chris Chester.
Uh,
Could have been worse.
Jesus. Yeah. No
he
kidding.
would trade his ring for a bowl of soup.
I saw a picture
Party.
of him. He doesn't look quite as homeless as he used to when he was here, though. He's kind of trimmed himself up a little bit.
Well, at
No
least there's
plate
that.
for Mr. Gray.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, shit. This was really fun, guys. We'll be back with you next week. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. By the way, how's life, man? The viewers miss you. The listeners.
Life is good. Life is good. I'm working hard. Working at NCSoft. We're putting out video games. Go play Blade and Soul. It's extraordinarily popular. And there, I just plugged the crap out of it, so somebody ought to like me for that. No, life is doing very well. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys having me back on. It's been a pleasure seeing and rapping with you all again. And I hope you'll have me back on at some point soon.
Absolutely. I know we will.
sure.
Thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. And like I said, for you folks at home, stick with us through the offseason. Lots of good stuff coming up as we refocus on the Redskins here. So stick around, and we can't wait till next time. We'll see you then.